What's going on, CineNerds?
Hey, I just got brought back down to earth from JP.
I didn't even know what to do with that one. And I'm Ryan. All right. What are we reviewing this week, JP?
You made me watch a film called The Fourth Kind.
Yes. And this film, either listen, if you're a nerd who likes alien stuff, if you like X-Files, if you are obsessed with the idea of abductions and theories of abductions, all that stuff, then it's for you. If you're not, this film could be considered pretty crap. Pretty big pile of crap. That's where I was going. Sorry. I enjoyed it though, and that's why I chose it.
Well, we're going to wait till the end, and you're going
Well,
to find it, and you're going to
you
find
don't
out.
even need to wait to the end because I already know your thought. I knew going into this what you were going to think about it because it's a fair assessment. But I have great.
But I'm a massive X-Files fan.
Okay.
And I'm a massive alien abduction fan.
But you
And
still didn't care for what they delivered here.
I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
find out at the end of the episode here.
I think there's more to be said. Let's do this.
So,
what's your initial reaction?
I had actually thought I had seen this movie, and I know for a fact I owned this movie at one point on DVD when it came out. But I couldn't remember a thing about it. And so I was like, well, I'm going to reorder it. I ended up reordering this on Blu-ray because I found it pretty cheap, and it was ended up being a couple dollars more to buy it on Blu-ray than it was to rent it. And as I started this film, I realized that even though I owned this film at one point, I never actually watched
So this is a
film.
first time watch.
It was a first time watch.
Oh, this is gonna make his review at the end worse.
So yeah, I missed the mark on this one with all the what I went back and read about this film with like the advertisement, how they advertised this film and everything. So I think from what I was reading, they kind of did the same thing that they kind of did with the Blair Witch Project.
They were jumping on the found footage thing, and they did a whole spin. They even start this movie off with Mila Jovovich doing Jovovich. How the hell? Anyways, they started the whole thing with her doing a whole spiel saying that this is completely based on true facts and blah blah blah, or true scenarios that have happened to people, and went down that rabbit hole. And so started out as herself introducing this movie and telling you that it's all based on something that happened. It's not. It's bullshit. But I'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, I started this film and with the found footage stuff, or the interview footage of the real person, and then it would go to the reenactments with the actors. And
the thing about the real footage, okay, so they in the beginning they do their little like the speech or the typed print comes across the screen and tells you for people's safety and for their well-being, we have changed the names in this movie of the characters that are being played and portrayed. And then they go back to the found footage, the supposed found footage, and it's all, no faces are blurred, nothing. It's all,
and it's all there. And when this started, I literally paused the movie because I didn't know anything about this movie. I didn't know anything about how they promoted this film. And I literally paused this movie and looked up, like, was this actually real footage? And then obviously I found out at that point, like, no, this footage was promoted as real, but it was pre-filmed. It was all fake. It was all bullshit. And I was like, oh, well, that kind of sucks, but okay.
So my kids, when they were younger, they got me hip, my older daughters specifically, they got me hip to this character that was creepy as fuck. His name was Salad Fingers. Did you ever see Salad Fingers?
What is that? I remember that, but
creepy cartoon person with these fingers.
I remember. But what cartoon was that from?
It was Salad Fingers. It was like a YouTube series.
Okay,
or something.
I remember seeing.
Maybe it started on Vimeo or something weird like that. But the actress who was supposed to be the real Dr. Abigail Tyler reminded me of Salad Fingers. It was so uncanny, and she was so creepy because her eyes are so big. You're like, is she one of the aliens? Like she was a lot.
Well, but especially by the end of the film with those interviews with her, it was like, man, this girl is batshit crazy. Like,
Yeah.
it was like you could really. It started coming out more the longer the film played out.
So, from my understanding with this film, now I'm having a blank for Nome, Alaska is the name of the town that this film takes place in, and Dr. Abigail Tyler is a character whose husband has just been murdered, as she keeps saying over and over. And she and her 2 children are trying to get through afterwards. And she is a therapist. So she has several clients that essentially are having sleep issues. They don't know why, but they all have common similarities and things that are happening to them. And she's picking up on the series of coincidences amongst them all together. And she starts trying to go down very unique methods to figure this out. So this is where some of the real comes into play. There was a doctor, I believe it was Abigail Taylor, but there was there was a therapist who had multiple clients that were going through a series of help for their sleep issues. The other thing that is definitely factual is from 1960 to 2004, there was 24 people that disappeared without a trace or anything further coming from them from Nome, Alaska. And FBI at one point got involved, and the FBI actually dug into this. They thought there was a serial killer on the loose.
And this part, I think, what I read was fact.
This is fact. That's why I'm discerning what is fact and what's not from what we're about to get into. So essentially, you had 24 missing persons, and the FBI concluded throughout this that it was due to the temperatures and alcoholism that these people were missing. That was exactly what they said. So there were missing people. This town does have a high rate of missing people and murders, apparently. And there was a therapist that was living in this area at this time. So those things, yes. I don't know about anything else around this movie. What I do know is that some of it really triggered me. And I'll get into that a little bit later, because just like the religious horror episode, I got some things in my past. Got some shit going on.
Was you abducted by aliens?
I don't know. That's the honest answer.
Okay, so off the bat, I am going to talk about and it was really heavy, and one thing I noticed with this, it was really heavy with this at the beginning of the film, and then middle of the film, they didn't do it at all, and then towards the end of the film, they did it, but it was more well done. So, and what I'm talking about is the
Hey, slow down on the Dr. Pepper, all right?
It's
starting to go to the brain.
I'm all fucked up tonight. I'm trying to get my mic right, and I can't.
I think you need to get your mind right.
That too. But what I'm talking about is the combination footage of the archive footage to the dramatization footage. So, like, the first quarter of the film, it did constantly this
side by side,
side by side, and it did split screens, and it tried to do it almost like a comic book style, like split screen type stuff, and it would blend the audio, like the doctor would be talking, and then it would like blend the voices of the actor and the archive footage actor together, and then it would play the archive voice with the dramatization person talking, and it would do that weird back and forth, and the way they layered shit, oh my god, it irked the fuck out of me for the first quarter of this movie.
Really? I actually liked it.
Now,
because it was different. That's why I liked it.
Halfway through the movie, it didn't really do the split screen. It would go from archive footage to dramatization. It would flip back and forth, and they didn't blend the voices. And I was like, okay, this is okay. I get this. Then towards the end, they kind of did the split screen thing again, and I liked it better at the end. because they wasn't blending the voices, and it worked better for me. So like if they would do one voice and would just go back and forth versus blending the voices with them split screen. It just the first quarter of the movie did not work for me with it.
So the first quarter of the movie for me, I kind of liked what they were going for, because when the first time I watched this, not this time. By the way, this was my second viewing. A lot of our movies we're going to be reviewing over the next few episodes are going to be second time viewings. Yeah. What I liked about it was because when I watched it the first time, I didn't know that they were found footage was actually actors as well. So I'm thinking like, oh, okay, they've got actual footage, and I'm thinking that what's her face, Mila, is learning the pacing and learning the correct flow, because the way that they layered them was you would have the actress who's playing Abigail Tyler in the found footage, she'd start talking, and where her word, like middle of her sentence, would trail off, Mila would pick up and carry the sentence through. And I liked that because it kind of you showed that Mila was devoted to this, like, so I appreciated it.
Yeah, but the blending of the voices went on too long. It was like the archive footage actress should be talking, then Mila's voice would come in over under it and then come up on top of it. And then you would hear two voices for 10 seconds.
Yeah, okay.
And then it would fade to just Mila's voice. And that's where it got me. It was like, maybe it's the musician in me, but sonically, it did not sound right in my head. And it just fucked with me. And I hated it. That's why I think it worked better towards the end, because they would immediately do that blend with the voices to where they wasn't blending the voices together. And I actually wrote at the very beginning of my notes here, hate the combination of archive footage and split screens. Isn't working for me.
If I could have picked how to change this movie, I definitely would have taken all of the found footage out. And the reason I say that is because, and I include Mila's intro.
Oh yeah.
If you would have just made this an abduction movie, then you would have been onto something, because it did have elements that made you go, "What the fuck?"
Well, what's funny, you say that. The end of my notes, I actually typed in my notes, this movie would be so much better if the archive footage was just gone.
I agree.
It would be a great abduction film.
Because what I did was, after I finished the film and my copy, I went in and I saw the deleted scenes, and the deleted scenes showed a lot of the archive footage already, and I was like, why didn't they just put this, like, all the found footage secondary, like it was like a case file or something, and then you could see that from that respect. So I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And the other thing, and this is at the beginning of my notes, like I wrote notes of how I was feeling throughout this episode.
I think he saw my book that I wrote from what was the one I did? Was the top 5 religious horror? Yeah. In the religious horror episode, he saw my book, and now he wants to write books too.
So I'm gonna talk about something else that annoyed me. Then I'm gonna give some positives. So the sound, I already talked about the sound blending with the archive footage to the regular normal footage, but the overall sound was horrible. Like and this was, you have that where the talking audio will be like super low, and then like sound effects and anything else is super high. And this movie is one of the worst films I've ever watched for that. Like,
I know what you're talking about, and there were certain things that I feel had to have that.
Certain moments, but it was throughout the whole film.
Well, like when Homeslice sat up in the bed and the high pitched noise emitted from his mouth, and he broke 3 vertebrae in his neck. When that shit happened, I was like, ooh, like it woke me. I was starting to like get a little tired at that moment, because he was laying in bed, and the scene, and it's just a really quiet moment, and I kind of was having a little moment where my eyes are closed, and then all of a sudden this high pitched frequency noise comes out of nowhere, and it's so abrupt. I was like, I'm awake, I'm good.
Now here's my positive. Will fucking Patton.
I was going to talk about this.
I fucking love Will Patton.
Dude, his intensity is so extra, but welcomed wherever he is. He and I'm assuming that you're going to put a picture here of this actor that we're talking about, and you'll know him because you don't know him by name, but when you see his face, you know damn well who he is. And he's been in so many great movies.
Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah,
Armageddon.
Yeah, he is just a quintessential. He's one of those ones who's just been around Hollywood forever, and unless you see him by face, you don't know who you're dealing with. But the cast was great. The cast in this was excellent.
Yeah, the cast was great. And actually, that's what I wrote. I wrote, Will Patton equals always amazing. Elias Cortez, or I can never say his name.
Just say Casey Jones.
I was going to say Casey fucking Jones from the Ninja Turtles movie. And I wrote, equals pretty good.
Pretty good.
In this movie. I'm initial reactions is where I was at on this. And then I wrote, Mila Jovovich equals okay, but never believable.
There were moments she had that were redeeming qualities. Like, one of the moments that I was okay with her was so in this movie, and I said this when we started this, and it was basically, she is convinced that her husband was murdered. She doesn't think that anything else happened, and she's mad at the sheriff, played by Will Patton, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's mad at him for not finding the killer yet. And it's because she's even though she's a therapist, she's put a psychological block up to what actually happened. And that was that her husband killed himself. He shot himself in the head. And there's a scene when she's in the hospital where they think she's essentially going crazy and no one will believe her. And he shows her the autopsy footage, the pictures, which is the gun and the bullet wound on her husband's head. And her pupils dilate at one point. She's shaking. She just like, no. And she like actually has a moment where I was like, there it is. There's a good acting scene. Other than that, I got to agree with you. A lot of this was very
well. And I say that, and Mila has this thing that I say this about her in this film, but I actually don't mean that entirely about this film. I think that's just how she acts. I think that's every movie you see her in. She's okay, but is she really that believable and great of an actress? I just don't think she is. Personally, I think her best role was in the film Cuffs with Christian Slater, just because it was a little bit more of a comedic role, and everything else. So she didn't have to be super believable.
Dude, all I need to tell you is Lilu. Okay, she's fucking amazing.
That's just because she was half naked through the movie.
She made up a whole damn language that she started an affair with the director. What are you talking about? That's brilliant. And they passed notes back and forth so their significant others didn't know in the language.
That's the only reason. That's the only reason they created the language, is so they could cheat on their spouses.
What else? I'm trying to find out. Anything else she might have been? She was very believable in Zoolander 2.
Oh my God. You're going to go through her IMDb, and you're not going to find anything.
And you're absolutely right, except for Lilu. I won't give her Lilu, okay?
She is essentially the same in everything.
You mean hot? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's it.
Listen, you're gonna find.
I'm not sitting here saying that she's the worst actress in.
There's definitely worse.
There's worse.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm just saying that I see her on screen. I'm like, I don't go, oh, Mila's in this. I have to go see this. I go, oh, Mila's in this. It's just probably it. We'll see. It could be okay.
I do want to, because you brought it up, because you brought him up, should I say? You brought up the movie Cuffs and Christian Slater. I do want to say that I was a diehard Dexter person. I watched all the seasons of the original series of Dexter, and I loved it. And I even loved the hurricane episode, the ending that everybody fucking bitched about.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
I loved it. I thought it was great because he essentially got a clean break and escaped and lived, and he's good, and you can leave it open and things can happen. Well, then
they ruined it with the sequel series.
Disagree. I think it was great.
Well, they killed him again?
He's not dead. And they started the new series for the prequel series, and he's in the car being transported in the beginning, in the very first episode, and the whole thing is a flashback while he's dying. He's basically seeing his life flash before his eyes. It's great.
Okay. Well, I've not watched any of the new stuff. I just watched that sequel series that they did a handful of years ago, however long ago it was, and it ended, and it burned me again, and I said, not again. So I've given up on Dexter. So these new episodes of Dexter's,
so don't care. Hear me out. Don't listen to him. The New Blood, where they're in the cabin in the woods in the cold, and it's excellent. It's well done. I thought well of it. I was pissed for a moment.
I thought well until the end.
Listen, I was pissed for a moment until he wasn't dead yet. And then I was like, okay, here we go. This is what I'm talking about. But then I watched the prequel series where he's young and Dexter is still narrating as things are happening. So it's in his head as this is happening. But the opening sequence of the very first episode is him being transported to the hospital. So I was hoping when the series wrapped for what they're going for.
So it starts at the cabin, him being hauled off,
Yeah.
still alive.
Yes.
Okay.
So
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
so that's where I'm okay with this. Now I don't know what they're going to do with this new thing because they have a whole other thing of Dexter coming out. So Resurrection, I think is what they're calling it. But either way, I'm here for it. I thought Christian Slater did a great job as Harry. I hated the idea of him portraying Harry at first.
I saw that, and I didn't upset me because Christian Slater was fantastic in Mr. Robot.
I haven't seen Mr. Robot yet. I really want to
Then
see
you
it.
fucked up, is all I'm gonna say.
All right.
Christian Slater is amazing.
Well, I wanted to see Mr. Robot
Robot
anyways, because that just the whole premise is up my alley 100%. Anyways, I digress. I went off about Dexter, and now we're into Mr. Robot, the fourth kind. So with the fourth kind, I want to explain why this movie stands out to me. So again, I don't know if anything ever happened to me. It just really weird coincidences. Okay, started when I was 1 year old. I had a crazy weird ability to escape any house I was in and sleepwalk out of my house. I'd wander into woods. They found me in the middle of Lorraine Road at one time with the lights at me at like 3 a.m, and my parents couldn't find me and they were freaking out, and it was craziness. I'd wake up outside of the apartment complex. I'd wake up in the hallways. Meanwhile, the doors to our apartments were always locked, the windows always barred. Everything was like, there's no way I could have gotten out at that age. It was just impossible, but I was getting out somehow. So we didn't know definitively what was happening. Never did. Fast forward, I started having crazy, weird sequence of dreams that was happening. Things were messing with me. Started getting these almost like puncture marks in the base of my skull, on my back of my neck. And I was making jokes about it. Whenever it would pop up, I'd tell my wife as an adult, I'd be like, aliens got me again. We'd have a laugh about it, no big deal. And I said it in front of my oldest one time. And she looks at me dead serious. She goes, what are you talking about? And I told her, and she goes, Dad, will you look at the back of my head right now? I looked at the back of her head, and she had the same fucking mark. And she said it's been happening on and off for years, and she didn't know why. And now, who knows? Maybe. But regardless, there's that scene in Fourth Kind where they're showing it's one of the in a lot of these, there's a hypnosis session that's happening. That's what brings all these things to the surface, and those bring on some of the best parts of the whole movie. And in one of them, they show this device, and that device really, because I just like literally went like this. The back, I can't see me, but I'm reaching and grabbing the back of my head because when I saw the movie the first time and even second time, I reached back and grabbed the back of my head because it freaks me the fuck out. So that said, when she's doing the hypnosis stuff, all these things start triggering, and it all stems from these several different patients seeing an owl with these black soulless eyes, that the owl's turning its head in 360 degrees, and the owl's watching them and outside of their house. And that was creepy shit too. That was really creepy, and I didn't even think of it like that. But essentially the aliens would be watching in some form or another. These people would realize that there weren't owls there when they're being hypnotized, and then they'd understand what was happening to them and see them. And the first guy that did the hypnosis stuff, that's what brought the sheriff into this whole thing. Was she hypnotizes him. He goes home to his family. He's freaked out, so he wants to continue and talk another time about what had happened. He goes home to his family, and all of a sudden, her character's getting woke up by the sheriff saying, he's only saying he'll talk to you. You have to get here. You have to get here. She goes there. This dude, he kills his family and then shoots himself in the head because of what he saw. And he thinks that they're hitting his family up.
And that scene that's actually probably, I don't know if it's the best scene in the film, but it's definitely up there. That scene was tense.
I've got three scenes.
It's tense.
That were for me. That one, when they hear the audio back. So Mila's doing one of her recorded sessions just with herself. She's recording her notes from what had happened, and she falls asleep essentially. And all of a sudden, that high-pitched frequency sound comes back into play, and then there's an ancient language being spoken, which is supposed to be Sumerian.
Yeah, I actually, in my notes, love the ancient Sumerian stuff: Rocket's Mask, Genesis, etc.
Yeah, I always love when they tie that in. However, if I want that I'll go see Stargate. Like, I not to be whatever. I mean, because we don't know, thing about a thing. We just all have these guesses and what we think we know about aliens, if they're real or not. So, but that stuff, those tie-ins, those historical ones, that's the reason I've watched all the seasons of Ancient Aliens over and over and over again, because I'm so pulled in.
Same. And Sightings. I grew up on Sightings.
Oh my God, I forgot about Sightings.
I
That's
love
awesome.
Sightings.
Sightings was great. The third scene was her second patient. She had hypnotized others, but there was a second patient who his wife watched him go be hypnotized, along with the character named Abel. Abel's the other therapist who's her colleague, who's kind of watching over her, and he thinks she's even going crazy. He doesn't believe a lot of what's happening. But Abel supervises because of what had happened prior with the family, along with the wife. And as soon as they get done, the guy, he saw the same thing, essentially. The owl is not the owl, it's people. And it's he doesn't understand what's happening, but it scared the hell out of him. And so fast forward a few days later, or a couple days later, whatever the time is, in that she gets called to that house, and she had notified the sheriff this time for this one, because just in case. And this dude starts levitating off the bed. He kind of Exorcist style, if you will. High pitched frequency comes into play. You hear the language again. They've got a linguist involved at this point. The actor's name is Hakeem. I can't pronounce the name he had in the movie, but and he's translating some of this stuff, and it's horrific, because you start seeing the side panels of when they're showing the found footage, and you can hear the language and what they're saying and how they're saying it. And at the end of one of the things with Mila's the other. That's the fourth. I guess there's a fourth kind of footage. Now, she asks her colleague Abel to hypnotize her, so she can find out what happened to her when that recorder went off and she heard the noise and stuff. They do that, and that was kind of a little creepier part for me, because to me this went into a whole different realm. When they show the figures coming into her room and holding her down, essentially, they're not like aliens traditionally in the sense of grays with the big black eyes. They're just shadow figures. And have you heard of the shadow people?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first thing I thought. Like, so everyone, there's another theory to aliens, that aliens aren't it, that we have an alternate dimension, and that there's shadow people, and that's what you see out of the corner of your eye in your houses, doing shit and walking around, and whenever you see a shadow, that's supposed to be it. So that was the first thing I thought with that. What else you got in your little notes?
Well, talking about the family scene with the guy going crazy over everything and killing, murder, suicide, his family. All the archive footage for that, and then the archive footage for the levitation, the guy screaming, and even like the archive footage with her interviewing the guy before he kills his family. Like, all those archive scenes with those people, not with the doctor, like her interviews, but the ones that with these other people that you're seeing what's happening with them. I put in my notes, archive footage cast is better than the main cast in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
they
agree.
felt real, and it felt ex-nay on the doctor archive footage, because I have a different opinion of that. But everybody that she's interviewing with, like the guy that's levitating, the guy that kills his family, all that footage, the actors and those and all that archive footage, it felt so natural and it felt so real versus the reenactment footage.
I agree.
Like, and that's one thing I loved about that. Some of that footage was it was so real, it was creepy. It was creepy as fuck.
As much as I love a lot about this movie, I also hate it a lot.
Oh, no, I've already been voicing some stuff.
I know you have. But to your point, though, that was a lot of it for me, was trying to find a common ground with the cast that was the actual footage, not the found footage, but like Mila and them. It almost felt like forced after you have the fake footage, because the fake footage was so much more real and intense. It felt like, and I don't know. I wasn't getting into that, but hearing the backstory of knowing that the missing people is happening in this town, not even a city, the 24 people over, whatever it was, 44 years or so. Hearing about that, hearing about the murder solve rate of what actually, whenever there was a murder or something, of them actually figuring out what happened, it's next to none. They were in a rough spot with that in the town. Knowing that these things may or may not have transpired, should I say there, but then the end credits roll, and I expected maybe more found footage getting put there. It's actual calls from people reporting eyewitness accounts of alien or UFO sightings.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was pretty fucking great.
Yeah.
So that goes back to sightings. It goes back to ancient aliens. The other thing was, so the premise of this, the name of this movie is called The Fourth Kind. Do you know why?
That is abduction.
Well, it's abduction, but do you know what the first three are?
The first one is sightings.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is
It's proof. It's basically like a picture or something, or a video, or
and then the third kind is
contact,
and the fourth kind is abduction.
Right. I did not know that, or at least I forgot it since the last time I watched this movie. And so just seeing those things, I was kind of like, okay, that's interesting. So I don't know. This movie, it left a definite impact for me, but it just wasn't. It wasn't everything it was the first time I watched it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't everything the first time you watched it.
It wasn't everything the first time I watched it, and this was my first time. So, in the middle, I'm gonna read something from the middle of my notes here, and this is going to kind of tell you right off the bat my thoughts on this film. Let me find it here. Oh, almost halfway through the film, and I wish I was watching Fire in the Sky instead of this film.
Oh my God, that's a great movie. Completely agree. Actually, you know what? That's one that I'm be scared about now too, because the rewatch might be rough on that too.
I've rewatched it. It's still pretty good.
Okay.
So, and that was my feelings throughout this film was, I wish I was watching Fire in the Sky. And by the end of this film, I was just like, I was more annoyed at the ending of this, because at this point, was all this shit in her head? Did she kill her daughter? Her daughter was missing. She got away with it. Was the daughter abducted? It kind of leaves you. It left me confused on. But which direction does this movie go here?
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, they cleared supposedly when they do in the end credits. So in the end credits, before they get into that, they do the, fast forward. This person's living here. This person's living there. This is what happened to this person, and they say Dr. Abigail Tyler was cleared of all wrongdoing on her daughter because there's no proof or anything further. To your point, yeah, I mean, if there's anything like that was actual that happened with this person who was Abigail, missing your daughter who's 7 at the time, I think, and if she got away with it, that'd be messed up. But to the flip of that, just as I was saying, I don't know, I don't have any proof, like if anything was happening to me. How frustrating would that be? Like if you really genuinely had this experience happening and it was real by all accounts and by all standards that you could tell, but no one else could prove it, no one else could back you with it, you'd feel like you're losing your goddamn mind. Mm-hmm. So it's creepy in that regard to me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's creepy, but I by the end of this film, I left this film frustrated. And I like kind of films. I mean, obviously, The Thing. I love films that you can interpret different ways on what you think the actual ending is. This one, not so much. I did not like the ending at all. I was just left confused with. Really, I felt like by the end of this film, she was making all this shit up, and she killed her daughter. That was where I was left with it, and I was just like, I hate this. And then they did the credits with the phone calls and the interviews, and I was like, okay, I like this. So yeah, it's.
There's things that I wish would have been done differently for sure. I wish they hadn't jumped on the found footage bandwagon for the time. I wish that would have been all secondary or released later in a director's cut, and they had focused just on a good quality abduction film, and that wasn't the case. And so, yeah, I was very underwhelmed in this instance. I didn't. I think maybe in the middle, maybe like for a good 20 minutes, there was some pacing for me issues that bothered me because definitely there was a middle point where it just dragged for a minute. And then when the daughter disappeared, and that was another cool moment, by the way, when the daughter did get abducted, they had a police officer put under surveillance at the house, watching the house, and that was another cam footage that the footage all went crazy, went haywire. You can hear the officer talking in the background saying, "Something is in the sky. Something's in the sky." It's pulling them up through the house. You can clearly hear it on that footage. And then all of a sudden, no one can tell what happened, and they think that she's just taken it. I'm like, wait a minute, did sort of the footage get wiped after that? Like, I didn't know.
Yeah, and then even it was like, well, they asked the cop, well, what happened? And he's like, well, there was something in the sky. But then it was like, that was it. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't defend her at all.
Yeah, and Will Patton, he just runs in, Captain Sheriff going, "Where is she?" Ah! It was a little much, but yeah. Well, you want to get the ratings?
Box office.
Oh, box office. Okay. Okay, so this was early 2000s.
Budget.
Budget, location, cast, early 2000s. Let's say 25 mil.
It was 10 million.
Okay. I wasn't going to go higher than 25. So.
Yeah, 10 million. And, we think this movie made.
Because of the promo, it probably made more than it should have.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah, because the way that they promoted it, like the trailer and stuff, it was far better than what we got. But I will say 32 mil.
I mean, you're off, but I mean, that was a good guess because this movie, it made 25, almost 26 million in the U.S. and it made 47 million worldwide. So,
all right. Yeah, I'm trying to factor in times and what actually happened in promotion and all that.
So this movie made money. I don't understand why.
I do because the promotion. It was misleading.
I feel. I hope that the promotion, they made all that money in the first week because I hope that the reviews bomb this the second week because, man, this movie's not that good.
The marketing and promotional teams of movies nowadays, it's frustrating to me because essentially they put all the best parts of the movie. In most trailers, I can figure out the entire premise of the movie, and I can piece together even through somewhat of the ending in most instances. And they need to start bringing back that whole leaving things mysterious, making things more attainable by going to see it yourself. Like what is going on? Why is it at this point? What's happening?
Or filming fake footage like some directors like to do for the trailers.
Yeah, I mean that would be. I mean, I hope to God that's what happened with the Superman trailer. But anyways, we won't talk about that.
Leave soups alone.
I'm scared still, man. In my soul, I'm hoping I'm wrong, but they're going to absolutely butcher it if they try to do too much in one movie right off the rip. So, fingers crossed.
All right, ratings.
He didn't want to go down that road.
We're not going down that road because
he has such high hopes for this movie.
Love James Gunn, and I have faith. So my opinion of this movie is it's not good. Actually, my notes right here. Movie isn't good. Once I looked into the marketing for this film, I saw it and I was like, okay, I get the appeal initially because they kind of did the Blair Witch thing with the found footage stuff, and they're trying to promote this film as, hey, this is real footage and this really happened. Well, then it turns out, no, this is bullshit. It was made up. It's a made up fucking story, and it just doesn't work. The sound, again, the sound bothered me. The split screen stuff really bothered me for the first quarter of the film. Mila bothers me. The cast, even with some of the cast is great, and I think some of this cast does not work well together in this film. found footage stuff with the people that are being interviewed is, and the crazy scenes with the found footage stuff is better than the film footage. It's just so much better. But those scenes are real short, and so I can't base the movie off of 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there. This movie as a whole, I will probably never watch this film again. I'll stand by. I would rather watch Fire in the Sky as an abduction movie. And
Highly second that.
this movie, if you were to put this next to Fire in the Sky, this is not even in the same realm of the greatness of what Fire in the Sky is. And Fire in the Sky, I have rewatched it. It's in recent years. It doesn't completely hold up, but it's still a fucked up movie, and it's a good abduction film. This film is not a good abduction film. I am giving this a 2.0.
All right. So for me, I disagree. I do think it's a decent, I won't say great, a decent abduction film, just because it did trigger me. And again, that's why we started this, and by saying, if you are X, Y, and Z into certain things, especially abduction stuff, some of the stuff can trigger a little bit. But if you're not, it's probably gonna be a big steaming pile of shit. I mean, so it's definitely not for everyone. Myself, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I felt like there's two different movies that could have been going on here, if we were being honest. The found footage movie and the actual cast movie, but I don't like to put them together. I didn't mind the panel way that they did it back and forth. That didn't bother me as much as it did JP. But there was some cohesiveness that was lost. There was the fluidity kind of did fall short in those moments. I can agree with that. So overall for me, I'm going to go one full nerd higher. I'm just going to go 3. I was not a huge fan on that second watch. It didn't age well. I didn't like the green screen behind Mila in the beginning too when she was introing the film. That was really weird and felt forced.
Yeah, that felt. Yeah, it just. It felt very infomercial-ish.
It did.
It was just, yeah.
I was waiting for it to be like, you should try Cialis.
Yeah.
No, but those 3 moments I described, and then the end credits with the actual footage or the actual calls from sightings of UFOs, those kind of, if I didn't have those moments, this movie would not even be at a 2. So thank God for those moments. And if you're a big fan of the alien movies, give it a watch. But if you're looking for that one, Fire from the Sky, if you haven't seen that.
Yeah. And I'm not going, I gave this a 2, and I thought about going lower. So there is that. But there was redeeming moments with some of the stuff that I was like, I really liked it. Because there is stuff in this film that was like, I really liked that.
Yeah. And again, the first time I watched this, because it was early 2000s, I was a young, stupid idiot. And I'm like, no, it's based on real footage. No, it's all fake. But it's done well if you're watching it and you're young and you're naive. But yeah, no. So that's where I'm at with it.
Well, do you have any recommendations before we get off here?
Yes. I just watched the 4th installment of, it's Chinese. It is called Kingdom. It's on Netflix, free to watch, but they're movies. There's 4 movies. You have to read subtitles, but if you're an action person, it's well worth the watch. Giant field battles, good saga, wide open for part 5 and 6. I think they're going to make 2 more movies. It's basically about the wars that ensued amongst the different rival portions of China during, I don't know, before the First Dynasty. So I would give that a watch, and then I would watch the new Dexter that I just was talking about.
So it just came out. I watched it the first day it came out. The final episodes of Cobra Kai.
I haven't watched any of the new stuff yet.
And man, it ends so amazing We talked about Superman and Lois, how great the ending of Superman and Lois was. Well, Cobra Kai ends on such a powerful note, just like Superman and Lois.
Okay,
And
all right.
if you're ready to see the ending of that series, if you haven't done it yet, go check it out because, man, fucking Johnny Lawrence.
I'm behind a season and a half on that. I gotta
So,
get back into it.
yeah, it ends on such a solid note. It ended the way that I had hoped that it would end.
My youngest and I, we usually watch that together, and the others, we watch that and Sweet Tooth. And I'm behind the last season on Sweet Tooth, and I'm behind that season and a half for that, so I got to check those out.
And since Cobra Kai ended, I went on William Zabka, how do you say his last name? Zabka, thank you. Film watching, and so I dove in, and I've talked about this in the past. I watched Piranha this week. Not Piranha, Python this week with him, and has him, Casper Van Dien, Robert Englund.
Is it about his muscles?
And it's about a giant python that the government genetically engineered, and it's eating people in this small town. And who's got to save them? Johnny fucking Lawrence.
And just when they think they're about to be done, an invisible raptor comes in.
He swept the leg.
Anyways. 3cinenerds@gmail.com is the email to reach out for us for any kind of questions, suggestions, and all that fun. Our link tree is also on the Facebook page for all of your Audible pleasures, or you can find it at CineNerdsPodcast.com.
That's right. CineNerdsPodcast.com for all your viewing and listening pleasures. I have written reviews there that he has not done any yet. He is dropping the ball.
But he introduced me to something that he's so much older than me. We discovered this recently. So he introduced this youngster to this app called Letterboxd, and I've been doing some reviews in there. So I'm gonna put some of my reviews on the page soon. But Letterboxd is fun if you haven't checked it out.
And I've got a Letterboxd up. You've got a Letterboxd up now. So maybe I'll drop those profile links onto the website so people can follow.
I'm an easy find. I'm Cleveland Jedi on there. So
mine's probably JP Cross. I don't know. I have to I have to go back and look. But CineNerdsPodcast.com. Go to it. I have all the new episodes listed on there. Link trees on there. The shop's on there. Written reviews are on there. I actually have a schedule link up now. So like everything we got coming, I've got the schedules up, and I'll have links as I get them uploaded. I have links on that schedule for each one. So
we do, just a reminder too, and I know you guys get bombarded with this, and it's like, hey, let's check out. They're done. They're just talking about the promo stuff, but this one's important to me. So every week, obviously, we do a live chat on YouTube, and when you go onto the live chat, just click the little thumbs up button. You can share it out, but we really encourage you guys to come on in, start talking to us a little bit more in there and having some fun with us, sharing that when it's popping out. And then if you subscribe to our YouTube page, when you're subscribed, it'll send you the notifications when that new chat's coming out, so you get the reminders so you don't forget.
Alrighty. Till next week.
Later.
Later.